Week 2 of the NHL season is upon us, and that means it's time to take a deep look at Waiver-Wire Monday. I'm riding solo today, people. I got a lot to say about the hockey action I have already seen, and of course, getting to Monday's big-time bets, baby. Let's pay these bills.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody. It's been a couple of days, but thank you for holding us down, and thank you for so much for tuning in to Monday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Today, it's just me riding solo. My boy, my co-host Steele, he is still driving cross country. He's moving out west. So thank you for bearing with us over the last couple of days. We had the draft content running out last week, but we are back to what we do best, covering the NHL and all the fantasy news that you need. And thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We appreciate you, and we are available across all platforms you find your favorite and hottest content. That includes YouTube. So check us out. Drop us a review if you're feeling what you're hearing. Let us know. We appreciate that feedback. Now, most importantly, today I get a little bit of an opportunity to jump on and tell you guys what I have been seeing from the first week of NHL action. And it's been downright exciting. The Vegas Golden Knights are undefeated. Marc-Andre Fleury has some things going on in Minnesota. Of course, Matt Murray's injury is going to be discussed on today's episode very briefly. We also have a big-time injury to Patrik Laine. I'm going to take a look into some of these things. I also have my big-time bets, my lock of the night, some good picks coming up later in the episode, and I will also be getting to my top waiver wire targets of the week. Getting to that in a few minutes, people, after the first break. But to kick off this episode, and you can see the shirt I'm wearing, you guys know we are Toronto Maple Leafs fans on this show, but we try to bring the unbiased takes and that unbiased analysis to a team that is still fantasy relevant for a lot of reasons, whether you're a fan of them or not. And now this Matt Murray, Ilya Samsonov situation. Last year he wanted Samsonov. Now he wants Samsonov. Is something that you have to take a look at. Samsonov is owned at 80% in most leagues. He is still out there in some formats, but at this point, he's probably been sniped up. If you still have an opportunity to go out there and add him, this is not part of my waiver wire discussion, but he has looked pretty good over 2 games, and he is going to get the run out for at least the next 3 or 4 weeks, if not longer. I just don't even see Matt Murray taking the crease away from him once he comes back. I know it's been a small sample size for both, especially Matt Murray, but you really can't make this stuff up. He gets burned a few times, high glove side in his first game of the year against Montreal. They end up losing that game, and then he gets hurt. And the 2 biggest things out on Matt Murray are his inability to make that high glove save and his inability to stay healthy. And here you have both of those situations already playing out. Look, Samsonov, 2-0 in his 2 games. He's turned aside 50 of 54 shots on net. 2 goals against average, 2.00 goals against average. I should say, you know me and the numbers, people. Save percentage of .926. Again, I understand it's 2 games. But you can't miss out on these opportunities to snag some good goalies. This seems to be a pretty good situation for Samsonov to get some wins, to stack some categories here for your team. We have talked about at length the goaltending market in this league this year being as thin as it is, and you're already seeing it in these situations. I'm going to be talking about Marc-Andre Fleury in a minute. I'm also going to be talking about another goalie that you're going to have your eye on waiver wire wise. But this is the start of the season, people. And while I want to run out there and overreact and start dropping and adding players at will, the case of Marc-Andre Fleury actually makes me want to be patient, because this guy's track record and his ability to get it done in big-time games, regular season or otherwise, I don't want to bail on Marc-Andre Fleury just yet. And that was my second thing that I've seen so far from this past week of NHL action. the Minnesota Wild have not looked good, and they have allowed a number of crooked number goal games already this season. And Marc-Andre Fleury, he came right out and said he's allowed 11 goals in 2 games. He'd be booing himself too, is what he said. And, if you're really deep into the analysis in the offseason and you were one of those few people who expected a regression from the Minnesota Wild, I guess hats off to you for picking, a slow start for the Minnesota Wild. I don't think this is going to actually be an indication of where this team ends up overall this season. I just think with the Kaprizovs and that top line and some of the balanced blue liners they have, Jared Spurgeon and otherwise, this team is going to still be in the mix for one of those top 3 playoff spots in that division. I just think we're a little bit too early on Marc-Andre Fleury hate here. And I understand that 11 goals and 837 goals against and disgusting underlying metrics is not something that you want to see, especially, trust me, people. I have Marc-Andre Fleury in a couple of different formats, and I am with you here that I am nervous as well. So let's full stop right there. I hear the hate. I hear it, but it's a bit too early, and I expect him to turn it around along with the rest of the Wild team. They have not looked good offensively. They have not looked good defensively. Give them some time. We've seen what they've been able to do over the last couple of years, and we know what Marc-Andre Fleury can do. So let's just take a deep breath. We have big-time bets coming up later in the show. I'm going to be telling you where I'm sprinkling some money for Monday night's 9-game board. I have a couple little tasty picks. We're also taking a look at the waiver wire right around the break. But before we get there, I also wanted to mention the injury to Patrik Laine, because the Columbus Blue Jackets, was one of those teams coming into this season that I don't think enough people were giving credit to for being an on-the-bubble wildcard team with a lot of offensive upside and some good, interesting fantasy pieces. Johnny Gaudreau being added in there. We talked at length about what that would mean for Boone Jenner and Patrik Laine. And Laine now goes down with an elbow injury. I believe it's an elbow injury. Elbow sprain. Thank you. And now we have a little bit of an opportunity for a guy like Gustav Nyquist to slide up that lineup and eat some major opportunity minutes over the next few weeks. We know Patrik Laine, when he's in there and when he's a streaky guy, but when he's going, not many better pure shooters in the game than Patrik Laine. And now he gets to play on the wing alongside Johnny Gaudreau. He only had 13 minutes before getting hurt in game 1. We don't know what that's going to look like, but you can expect that when he is healthy, that top line alongside Boone, Jenner, and Gaudreau is going to put up some points. And I still think Gaudreau, Jenner, and Nyquist, if you're out there looking for a little addition to your squad, Gustav Nyquist isn't in my top waiver wire ads just because I am not sure what this chemistry is going to look like with Jenner and Gaudreau, and I really am feeling my 3 targets. But it's one of those takeaways that I had written down in my notes. With Laine's absence from the lineup, Gustav Nyquist, even Jakub Voracek is going to get some secondary power play minutes now in that gap. I love me some Cole Sillinger action as well. This means increased minutes for him. I don't know what it's actually going to mean in terms of their offensive output. It's been only a couple of games without Laine. Actually, I think 1. So that's why I have my eye on them this week, because I think Gustav Nyquist will be worthy of an addition. Maybe it's next week's waiver wire target, but I'll be getting to mine right after the break. I got to pay these bills. Holding it down on a solo episode today, people. Thank you for tuning in. I have to tell you about Simply Safe. The numbers don't lie, and in the past decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters, and because I use Simply Safe now in my own home, that's right, people, they are protecting you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents that always have your back. And this is why I really love it. It comes with that personal experience, that personal touch, where the people at Simply Safe demonstrate how important your family's safety is to you. With professional 24/7 around-the-clock monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonNHL. You can save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free by visiting simplysafe.com/NHL network to learn more. There is no safe like Simply Safe. Now, people, you know me when it comes to Waiver Wire Monday at the start of the year. And if you don't know me, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Don't miss any of the Waiver Wire Monday special episodes. That could be the difference for your team down the stretch, because as much as I said, you want to be a little wary of going out there too early and making too many moves. You don't want to get left behind and not make any at all, because there are some good players out there, people. There are some good players at not very high percentages, aka you're going to still get them out there in a lot of leagues. Speaking of which, my first target, Jake Allen. Jake Allen looked real solid in the couple of games that I saw him play so far for the Montreal Canadiens. The Habs defense is shaky at best. He is going to see a lot of rubber. But what you've seen from Jake Allen over his career, other than some injury concerns, he is a solid goaltender and a very good option at only 22% owned in Yahoo leagues. I said it. The concern here is that ragtag blue line in Montreal that gives up a lot of high danger chances. It gives up a lot of shots. But hey, in 2 games, 1-1, 2.03 goals against, 943 save percentage. He's turned away 66 of 70 shots. And the main reason why I'm really liking a good look at Jake Allen here, aside from what I've seen in his 2 games as a waiver wire target, is there's just no pressure on him at all in the Montreal crease. This is his cage for the entire season. He will be playing 60 to 70 to 75% of the starts over the entirety of this season. Sam Montembeault is not a factor in the cage there. Carey Price will not be touching the ice. Those few things there with Jake Allen, if you need a fill-in, if you have an injury, if you have a concern over some of the starting goaltenders that you have, there is nothing wrong with taking a look at Jake Allen, who has been beyond a serviceable NHL goalie, better, above average, and a guy that I just like. I like his moxie. I like his game. 6'2", good frame. I understand it's only 2 games, and trust me, I understand that the Montreal Canadiens are a work in progress, especially on that blue line. But goaltenders, again, it's been a hot topic on today's episode. Of course, you know me, I've been burned way too many times by bad goaltending situations. I'm trying to guide you in the right way, people. And maybe I'm trying to help myself a little bit too here, because I really do like Jake Allen's game so far this season. That's waiver wire target number 1. Waiver wire target number 2 is another player who is going to be available in your league at only 5% owned right now in Yahoo leagues. Justin Schultz on the Seattle Kraken is definitely worth a look. Look, this is a guy who's played over 500 NHL career games, actually over 600. He is a veteran. Last year, he only puts up 23 points playing in Washington, but he was only getting around 16 minutes of ice time per game. He's now up to over 19 minutes per game. He's getting power play 1 time alongside a really good unit of Bjorkstrand, Matty Beniers, Andre Burakovsky, and I forget the other pieces, maybe Ryan Donato as well. The Kraken are a better team this year, people, and if you're not paying attention to some of these fantasy pieces on a very much improved team, especially offensively, you're sleeping. So let's not do any of that. Tap into what I'm telling you. Justin Schultz, 1 goal, 2 assists in 3 games. He's getting that top power play time. He is slotted in on the second defensive pairing. He is also looking real nice playing alongside Vince Dunn. You know I like me some Vince Dunn action from the offensive side of things. And that's where I'm really going with this, people. The value that you can find on a Seattle Kraken team that, again, it's early. It's very early, and I don't think they're making any noise when it comes to a wild card playoff team or anything like that this season. They might be close, and a big reason will be some of this offensive output and some of this chemistry that you're seeing with the top 6 forward group and the top 3 D-men on this blue line core. And I'm telling you, Justin Schultz is available out there, and the fact that the minutes are going up, his shots are going up, and that opportunity is obviously on the come up as well. Hey, I understand it is not a super sexy name, and none of these names really are, but that's what Waiver Wire Mondays are about. It's about getting lucky sometimes, doing your research, make sure that you're always tuned and tapped into the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. That's number one. And number two, just go out there and make sure you're filling your roster with some of these players that are in advantageous situations. Justin Schultz is one of them. I'm liking 3 points in 3 games. Do I think he's going to be a point per game player by the end of the season? Of course not. Let's not get crazy here. But I like what I'm seeing so far. 19 plus minutes a game, getting that opportunity on the top power play. These are all things that are working in your way of benefiting your fantasy team. Benefiting your pocketbook is what I want to do after the break. I've got my big time bets to break down because the first week's been pretty good. You know, I'm feeling it right now. I believe my record is 7-9, 2-3 on the lock of the night. Steele's got to pick his game up. I got to get some chirps in on Steele, especially because he's not here. He's going to do better with his bets this week as soon as he's back. We'll give the kid some credit because he's moving cross country, and that's a lot to handle. But my last waiver target of the week, Reilly Smith, for a number of reasons here, people. Number one, the Vegas Golden Knights are looking good, 3-0. Number two, he's playing on a really good line with Jack Eichel. Number one, you don't need to hear who else, but also Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel's going to get moved around that lineup a little bit. I do like what Phil still has in the tank offensively, but Reilly Smith can play left wing. He can play right wing. He's only rostered in about 15% of Yahoo leagues. He is also on a nice power play unit with Mark Stone and Eichel and otherwise Shea Theodore. Reilly Smith is one of these players that his entire career in Florida or otherwise has not nearly gotten enough credit or respect as a very solid 45 to 50 point man. He can play both wings. He's got speed. He gets shots on net. I like Reilly Smith's game, and he has a goal and an assist for 2 points through 3 games. And the fact that he is just getting these points by association and minutes with Jack Eichel and Mark Stone, you have to go out there and take a risk on Reilly Smith because what we've seen from the Vegas Golden Knights so far is they are a better team. Eichel has settled in a little bit. We know the goaltending situation, again, like a lot of teams, is a little bit sketch. But what we can bank on, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to score some goals this year, and they're already an improved team on what they were last year after injuries, COVID, and otherwise. Reilly Smith coming off a so-so season, injury-plagued as well, 38 points in 56 games a year before, but this guy is steady at 60 points, 53 points, 54 points, year in and year out. I could see another 50-point season coming from Reilly Smith, no problem, especially if he sticks around with the likes of Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. Those are 2 elite names. And we are not going to forget about Reilly Smith because if you don't pick him up this week, I'm telling you, over the next couple of weeks, I'll be getting some comments on these episodes going, Flip, you were right because Reilly Smith is putting up some points for me. Make sure you jump on some of these guys. Make sure you jump on some of these bets right after the break because I'm going to try and stay hot, people. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. And make sure you make your second listen game-to-game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game-to-Game NHL covers all of the action across the world of hockey with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Audacity app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day, people. We really appreciate it. Steele and I see you. And what we also see is the opportunity to make some money. Now, let me bust out the old school pen and paper here. That's right. Sometimes I like jotting down my bets old school with a pen because when you're looking at these numbers like I do all the time, sometimes bets pop up, situations pop up, and you need to write them down. Today, Monday, 9-game board. One of the things I was going to talk about off the top of the episode was the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby. Because if you listen, and I think, you do listen to this show because that's a good idea to make sure you're getting that fantasy and betting money. I have said a few times that do not count out Sidney Crosby. I said it all off season long. After the year he had last year, you know that there was a lot of gas left in the tank. And with the window for winning shrinking rapidly in Pittsburgh, a player of this caliber senses his time is coming in the NHL. You know, it's on its way out, and I can see that killer instinct from Sid with this window closing. 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points in 2 games. I've liked what I've seen from these Pittsburgh Penguins as well. Again, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record. I understand it's early, and one of their wins was against the Arizona Coyotes, but their second one, convincing 6-2 win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now they roll into Montreal. We talked about the goaltending with Jake Allen, who has been pretty solid, but this is a situation for me with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are not going to miss many opportunities this year against really weak opponents. I'm calling it. The Pittsburgh Penguins sense that this might be one of their last kicks at the can, maybe the last kick at the can with this group. And that makes me want to bet on them a lot until I see anything start to fade. And I understand the 2 games, one against Arizona, but I'm liking this spot for both Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. You roll into Montreal on a Monday night. This might be a bit of a letdown spot for Pittsburgh with some big games coming up at the end of the week. LA, then next week, Edmonton and Calgary. Not with Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. There is no look-ahead games. This team is going to smash tonight. I'm recording this episode early, so some of these odds will change. But so far, my first pick of the night, people, you know Steele is usually the puck line guru, the puck line king. I'm feeling a smash job from the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. I'm taking them on the puck line, -1.5 for plus 105 odds. I'm liking the plus money right now, and I just think that whole preamble that I gave is going to hold true for this Pittsburgh Penguins team all season long. They sense that there is an opportunity here. They're going to still have to get through Carolina. They're going to have to get through the New York Rangers. They're going to have to get through Tampa and Florida. The Eastern Conference is gnarly. But if a team can do it, Tristan Jarry, Chris Letang, some of these underlying pieces, Jake Gensel is an absolute stud and forming amazing chemistry with Sidney Crosby. If Crosby continues to score how he's scoring, people, I'm going to be riding on the Pittsburgh Penguins all season long. My lock of the night, Sidney Crosby, anytime assist. This odd might even creep. You might have to take Sidney Crosby over assist and a half. I'm comfortable with that too. So far, that line is not up. I will tweet it out later in the day, so we have the updated picks. When I tweet out my picks, I usually do it right before puck drop. An hour before puck drop, I will have the updated lines. But Sid always feasts. He feasts on these Canadian teams. And, I've seen him carve up the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've seen him carve up the Montreal Canadiens. He likes coming back to the part of the country he's an East Coast boy. He likes coming back here. And I'm just going to very quickly punch up his splits against the Montreal Canadiens to just, put a little bow on my lock of the night here, because Sidney Crosby anytime assist or Sidney Crosby over 1.5 assists is definitely making my card tonight. Oh, how about this? In 43 regular season games for Sidney Crosby, 58 points, including 37 assists, almost an assist per game player. Not quite, but close. And he owns the Montreal Canadiens. Like, I know looking at these numbers, you're going to say flip. He probably has 30 or 40 assists against a lot of teams, but the Montreal Canadiens are one of the teams that he has a lot of success against. I'm going to say that's good for both him and the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. Those are my first 2 picks. My third and final pick is an interesting little over bet. I'm taking a look at this Bruins-Florida Panthers game. This is in Boston. The Boston Bruins are coming off of 2 high-scoring games. I believe in their first 2 games, they put up 9 goals. The Boston Bruins put up 9 goals in their first 2 games. Florida Panthers also won their first 2 games, scoring 4 and 3. Both teams are clicking offensively. That's what I like, number one. And the angle that I'm going to be taking a lot with these Boston Bruins this year, and it's already been case in point with 2 numbers going over the total in their first 2 games. Bruce Cassidy was one of the best and is still one of the best defensive coaches in the business. And now that he is no longer in Boston, I am going to say that this Boston Bruins group is going to be in for a bit of a tricky ride when it comes to trying to keep that number under the total this season and play defensively tight games. And what we've seen so far, that is already holding true. I like the over here, that edge that Cassidy gave this team. They're dealing with some key injuries as well. I was starting to lean Florida here in this spot, but I also just really like the over. 6.5 on the over. I don't know if I have the odd up here for you people. Yes, I do. It's minus 125 at the over right now. I am loving this spot for a high-scoring game. I could see it being 4-3, no problem, with two teams that have already clearly shown that they're feeling it offensively. I know the last game that Florida played, they were playing against the Buffalo Sabres, and the goaltending and the defense there is a bit dodgy, but that is okay. I like the spot for a high-scoring game. Over 6.5, that's my last pick to recap all three picks for Monday's 9-game board, people, and thank you for holding me down on this solo episode. Give me the Penguins minus 1.5 on the puck line at plus 105. I will also take the Sidney Crosby anytime assist as my lock of the night. That one feels like free money. That's my second pick. And my third, over in the Florida-Boston game. It's at 6.5. If you can find it at 6, that would be even juicier, but I think it's going to stay right at 6.5 because odds makers are doing the same research I am, people, and they can see the trend going in the direction of the over for this Bruins-Panthers game. Those are the bets. This has been Monday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. And you might as well make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Check him out. He is feeding you everything you need to know for the start of the NBA season. Available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, Monday through Friday. That is Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Make it your second listen. And thank you, people, for tuning into today's episode. Steele and I will be back Monday to Friday every single week through the NHL season. I'm getting married this weekend, so Steele might be doing a couple of solo episodes for me. Thank you so much for holding us down, and good luck with all your bets out there.